What up, everyone? Welcome to the Smoking Tire Podcast. This episode is brought to you by Off the Record. Listen, only a sucker pays their tickets and pleads guilty. Don't be a sucker. You got to understand something. Moving violations are a big business, not just for the police and the highway patrol and those kinds of folks, but also the insurance company. And a ticket that you receive, plead guilty, and pay can very often multiply several times over in insurance premiums, dude. It's a problem, and it's a problem I have personally dealt with because remember all those bull run videos I did where I got all those tickets and how funny that was? Yeah, my insurance premiums went up for a decade. That's how that system works. The point is, fight your tickets. Off the Record, guys, is where it's at. Off the Record is a service that helps match you with a well-qualified attorney to fight your tickets. Off the Record's attorneys have a 97% success rate, and their lawyers cover 90% of the population of the United States. Here's what you do. You go to offtherecord.com/TST or use code TST10, that's TST10, on the iOS and Android app. Either of those will get you 10% off any service you use with Off the Record for the next 3 years. So sign up now, make that account. It's there when you need it. Listen, being on the side of the road is not the time to start thinking about getting an attorney with the lights flashing in your face and all that. Have it ready. Have it in the phone. Have it in the back pocket. That way you know if you get pulled over and you get a ticket, 97% chance that's not going on your record. And if it does, you don't actually have to pay. Money back guarantee with Off the Record. So go to offtherecord.com/TST or use code TST10 on the Off the Record app. 10% off all your services until May of 2023. Also, we're brought to you by Dylan Optic sunglasses, guys. You know those awesome matte finish sunglasses I'm wearing in every single video? They don't just look cool. They don't just look different. They work great. The NIR lens technology, man, this stuff, I'm out in the sun, I'm out in the mountains, in the desert all day long, driving for hours on end. When you live near the beach in Los Angeles, as it turns out, every time you go home at the end of the day, you're driving directly into the sun. I learned that when I moved here. It's inconvenient a little bit, but the Dylan Optic sunglasses really save my eyes for long days in the sun. And they look cool. They got metal frames, plastic frames. They have prescription available. So go to thesmokingtire.com and click on that Partners tab. You'll see the Dylan Optics banner right next to Off the Records, actually. And if you use that Dylan link on our website, we will send you a free Smoking Tire t-shirt with every purchase of Dylan Optics sunglasses for supporting the people who support us. All right, on this episode of the show, my old friend Randy Nonnenberg, the CEO and founder of Bring a Trailer, is calling in from his new facility in San Francisco. The auction market is strong despite the coronavirus, and he is going to tell us all about it. Randy Nonnenberg, the founder of Bring a Trailer, on the Smoking Tire Podcast.
And that means it must be time for the show. Hello, everyone. Smoking Tire Podcast. Happy Wednesday. Hope everyone's doing well today. I had a tour of my construction site earlier, and they are on layer 3 of 7, polishing the floors. And when they're polishing the floors, that's how you know shit's going to be done real soon, which is very exciting. Also, I sold a lot of our old gear to a bunch of you last week, which is great. Thanks for helping us get ready to move. Speaking of moving, we... as many of you have noted in the comments, mainly by being extremely impatient for the Tom Segura show, we are stacking shows. We're recording as many shows as we can because there's going to be a period of 2, maybe 3 weeks where we are moving into our new studio and maybe can't record new material. So we're trying to record a little bit of a buffer. So please stop being so annoying about when the shows are coming up. We record them live and then they come out on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and there's going to be a lot of them stacked. So just chill, people. Anyway, today our show is going to be excellent because we have a very excellent guest. Randy Nonnenberg, the founder, CEO, and man with an excellent garage in his background on Zoom. What is up, brother?
Hey, how are you? Good to be back.
Oh, and good internet in your place, too. No choppiness from you.
Gotta have the internet flying around here with all these cars online.
Are you in? You're not in your personal garage. You're at HQ,
no.
right? Okay.
This is the new BAT office in San Francisco. You were at the former BAT office. You and Zach both actually back in the day. But
I liked it. The little one. It was so charming. What a great building that was. I wanted to live in that building.
Yeah, it was cool. But man, now we have more bodies and more cars, and we need to get a bigger spot. So we're on the same street, about a mile up, and you should come see our new spot.
I would love to when my mayor lets me out of my house.
Exactly.
No, we're very fortunate, Zach and I, in terms of, for a lot of reasons, not being sick and not really knowing anyone who is, but also that our job exists either in this little studio or out in the middle of the mountains by ourselves. And so we are able to continue, as my morning email indicates that you guys are cranking them out.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we don't have a storefront. We don't have an auction tent. We've always done everything virtually. So that is true for all our staff as well. So it's been really wild. Yeah, I'm excited to talk to you guys about it in terms of what the last couple months have looked like. And things are evolving rapidly, but it's been super cool to see the continuity of the BAT community, and things are still rocking and rolling online.
Well, right now you guys are making the traditional players in the auction game, get back on their heels quite a bit, huh? That
was a sort of slow thing that was already happening, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we had been proving the internet concept for a good while, but then COVID happens, and it's like, oh, hi everybody, you can't have an auction anymore.
Yeah.
What are you going to do about it? And some of them are panicked, and some of them are making moves, and we're picking up quite a few customers that had said, oh, maybe I would have listed someplace else in the summer, but let's do BAT because this is ready to go right now.
Yeah. The infrastructure is there. I mean, you guys have really been, ramping up. I feel like it feels like it's been not as long as it really has been. It's probably been 10, 12 years, right? It's been a while.
BAT was turned on in 2007, so so
13 years.
But auctions were 2014.
Okay.
So, but that's coming up on six-year anniversary, which is pretty nuts.
And how many are we doing a day now? How many are you running through a day?
We do about 60 a day, so 300 a week.
That's a lot.
It's crazy,
a lot of auctions. It is a lot. I mean, you have to. I mean, how big of an ongoing community do you need to sell? You know what I mean?
Well, you can't just have the sellers, right? I mean, you got to have the buyers. And so we've always been cautious about how fast we let it grow. As you know, we curate it, and we don't just say, yes, everybody come on in and list your junk. We are cautious about how we do it.
No, we need to approve your junk.
Is making sure that the community is growing just as fast as the listings. If it went to triple the listings overnight and not as many buyers, that would feel like an empty auction tent. So we're careful about it. And amazingly, this whole COVID environment with people at home, I mean, like everybody, if you've talked to any other internet folks, I'm sure it's true of your live streams too. I mean, the traffic has just been crazy, even hard to handle. And so we've seen
our traffic has not been hard to handle. Our Zoom conversations have been hard to handle, but definitely not our traffic.
Okay, well.
No, you know what? I honestly wish I could say that we experienced some monster spike in traffic, but actually podcasts are down because people aren't commuting as much.
Yeah, it's strange.
And I think the car reviews are strong. But I have to say that although I've enjoyed driving what I've been driving over the last couple of months, the cars that I had booked for March and April were not exactly lighting the SEO on fire. It was I had cars that weren't exactly the most interesting to the audience, and so our traffic was okay. But I'm more interested in your traffic because your traffic is much more indicative of the state of the car industry, because the state of the car industry really often depends on, are people buying and are people selling, and it really just boils down to that.
Yep, absolutely. And obviously we monitor that closely, and it's been something that we had to kind of sit back and watch. And March, I think for everybody was like when this was first happening, the first lockdowns, the highest degree of panic, the stock market's going bonkers. That was a little crazy. Some people kind of were like, wait, should I list a car? Should I buy a car? What should I do? But then everybody moved home. Everybody kind of settled in.
2 weeks later, it's like, well, I got 50 grand and I'm
totally
bored.
figured out the new routine. And they were like, hey, I need something to do. I mean, the interest in cars didn't change at all. It was just people's environment changed. And obviously there's some economic changes and for some subsets, but our buyer group and an expanding group of people have been on BAT buying as actively and as aggressively as ever. I mean, bids per car are up, visibility, eyeballs per car are up. And I mean, six-figure cars, we sold more six-figure cars than ever in April.
Really?
What?
I mean, there's those sort of stats. It's just, I mean, you wouldn't think that. You think that people would be like, hey, let's maybe chill for a month, right? Like, I don't know.
Well, I don't know.
It's been the opposite. It's been totally the opposite. And part of that is people's spending behavior. And part of that is the curation. We have so many cars submitted. We got some really good stuff,
I mean, yeah, and the more I think about it, the more of course you're selling the more six-figure cars because the people that have millions or tens of millions of dollars are bored and sitting at home and they're not really freaking out about their money. Whereas the guy who's got 50 grand in his savings account and maybe an IRA and whatever, and he maybe just lost his job or is worried about a job. The guy who was bidding on a $15,000 or $20,000 car before, that's the guy who's maybe not bidding, right?
That's the guy who has different behavior. Yeah. And so we're watching for that. But you know what's weird, man, is, I mean, look at our site, scroll through this. You're scrolling through.
We are scrolling through
CTS WAGs and Fiats and all the crazy stuff we have. So that CTS is like probably mid-range, right? What is that? I don't know, 50, 60K car. But like the 15K cars you're talking about.
Yeah.
People of, higher it's not like high school kids buying those cars on BAT. There's like collectors that are stoked on VW Bugs, right?
Yeah,
and
yeah.
The Fulvia behind me and
that little
Cruiser
E30
behind me and stuff. I mean, the economical cars are cool to buy too. So we're not seeing like, like the high end's fine or the low end's not fine. We're seeing across the board that these cars are they're still consistently moving, and sale rate is as higher than it's been, and that's no
interesting. Well, do you think
BS line, right? I mean, you see press releases and stuff, and everybody's like, "Oh, it's fine. Don't get scared. Everybody's going to be fine." And you're like, "That's BS. That's not for real." But if you look, I mean, everything's public on BAT. Like follow an auction that ends today or tomorrow, and it's true. Like they're all going just as much as they have been. So it's been a pleasant surprise to say the least for all of us, and we're stoked for it, and we're just trying to keep our arms around all the volume that's coming through.
Do you think the sellers have been a little more reasonable with their reserves? Have they been a little more like, listen, I really want to sell this. I'm not going to be, such a cheapskate about the reserve price. And that leads to more sales.
That's absolutely true. I think people are kind of, if they need to sell a car now, like right now, like trying to, ride some huge upswell wave of profit or something is probably a little bit different than it was a year ago or more.
No,
for sure.
And
so people are a little bit more reasonable. And dealers still need to do their business, right? So they only make money if they move cars. So they're not going to just park for a year and wait. So they're more motivated to move cars. So we've seen a lot of that sort of inventory moving through, but we've seen a lot of those trends.
I actually was watching that crated up CBX that went yesterday, which was a Honda CBX Super Sport that was literally brand new in the crate, like had never been taken out. And I've been looking for a motorcycle to display in my lobby, and that seemed awful cool. And I was like, this is either going to go for like $8,000 or 30. It ended up going for I think 21.5, which for somebody that's probably a pretty cool deal for their collection. But for me to park something in my lobby, it seemed a little excessive. It was very cool. I mean, I get the email every morning, so it's 6 a.m. California time. I'm going through all the new offerings, so I've noticed that there is no shortage of interesting stuff for sale right now.
The email's going crazy. I'm surprised you can even still read it. The email is so crazy. It's so full of cars now. We kind of need to redesign it. It was kind of optimized for 20 or 30 cars, and now it's like way more than that. But
well, you know
we'll
what's
find you something
great
for your lobby soon, man.
You know what's really good? I've gone on a real social media diet. I've removed all social media from my phone. I still have it on my computer, but I don't have it on my phone. So when I get up in the morning, I'm not going to Twitter and Instagram anymore. I'm going to a couple like political newsletters I subscribe to that are like long form, and my Bring a Trailer morning email. So that's like my Instagram is going through that every morning.
It's all you need, man. You don't need that other stuff, right?
You know what? I got to tell you, Randy, I feel fucking great because of it. I mean, it's the difference that getting that stuff out of your phone makes, because it's not just that like that it's addictive and all that kind of stuff, but you use it to fill every little crack in between every social interaction, and it makes it very difficult to just be somewhere and be comfortable just like standing there and not looking at your phone and not like doing a thing. And I started to realize like, fucking, I can't just stand here. It was weird.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
It was
Absolutely.
really interesting. And I dropped my screen time by 65%.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Hands stopped hurting. It was great. Anyway, more importantly, let's step back. Last time we talked to you, I don't know, it's probably a year ago at least. What are some of the more, other than coronavirus related, some of the more recent kind of trends you've seen? Anything interesting and noteworthy worth discussing?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the stuff that has gotten a lot of visibility, a lot of interesting Japanese cars, right? The Japanese thread has been being talked about for a long time, but then new Supra came and people loved it and people hated it. And then
the one that sold on Bring a Trailer tanked.
Well, that's what I was going to talk about.
Yeah,
right?
Go ahead, please.
Then did you see the C8 Vet that sold on BAT? Like,
no, what it get?
I think it got like 10 or 15 over sticker, right? Which is less than crazy dealers are marking up, but it's more than an MSRP.
Nobody should ever pay over sticker for a Corvette. How stupid do you have to be to pay over sticker for a Corvette? Seriously. Like,
I would pay something to get to go to BAT instead of a dealer, though. I don't know, man. Go to the dealers with those guys.
I'd rather pay over and give it to you.
Yeah.
If I'm going to pay over to somebody, I'd rather it be you. But you shouldn't pay over for a Corvette,
hey,
especially
man.
a base one.
They don't make many of them.
I don't know.
Well,
where
they did shut down the line or whatever, right? So I don't know. Maybe that guy snuck it out. Hey, you found it. Nice move.
Yeah, Zach's
so,
quick.
There's been some. There's always interesting stuff to follow. These sort of. The subplot. I mean, you can scroll down and look at how many comments on that vet, right?
It kind
of stirs people up and gets people pretty fired up. But yeah, same thing happened when we listed the new Supra, but then that has the sort of interesting narrative around. So what are the other Supras going to do, right? What are the wing cars, the turbo cars, the 80s, the earlier Supra is going to do? One of those, I think what is it? The mid 80s one. I guess that's a second gen Supra.
I don't know. Nobody cares about them.
That's what I thought, man. Until a couple of days ago this week, there was one with like 30,000 miles. It's that second body, that maroon body style, but it's not that one. It's one like it.
Oh, so it's a 30,000 mile Celica Supra?
Yes.
Oh.
Right.
Wait, it's not blue, is it? Is it blue?
No, I think it was a similar reddish or burgundy or something. And it went for like 35 grand.
Oh,
man.
wow.
It went
Really?
like absurd.
Wow.
Right? Aren't those supposed to be like 8K cars?
I mean, yeah, it's certainly an 8K driving experience.
There it is. Click on. Okay. Anyway, I can tell you where to click on.
No, it's all right. We'll find it. We believe you. But
Toyota Supra over in model page there under BAT Essentials.
I don't know. I don't know.
But,
maybe for a lemons race or something, but otherwise, I don't give a shit about those things.
Right. Right. So, but anyway, you ask what's going on. I mean, we've kind of created a position for ourselves where we have these low mile, unusual diamond in the rough versions of kind of ordinary models.
Wow. That's
There's the car. What's the price?
I mean, look,
32,250.
That's really clean. Yeah, when was the last time anyone's ever seen one that clean, though?
But
I mean,
people
that's like
go nuts for this stuff now, man. Yeah. I mean, what does it say? How many miles over there? 26.
28,000 shown. 2.8 liter. Blah blah blah.
So anyway, that
really
kind of
low.
stuff. We've sold some stuff over the past few months of like low mile, beautiful, amazing example of some weirdo car, or like an FD RX-7 with no miles on it.
But that that's a universally like loved car.
Those are very
gorgeous.
rare. An FDRX7 that isn't a complete steaming hunk of shit is worth a lot of money. That's the only barrier you've got to clear with that car.
So the driving experience, what's amazing is when I was scrolling through, there was a C6 Z06 for sale with normal miles that sold for basically the exact same price as this 84 Celica Supra.
Those are pretty different on the road.
Oh yeah, it's super different on the road. It's just like that's there's no better example of like here's what you can get for your money in terms of driving experience.
Yeah, but looking at the pictures of this Celica Supra, Randy, I don't think you could put the words investment grade more applied to a
We don't
car
say
like
that,
this.
man. Those words are not allowed on BAT.
I completely agree there. They shouldn't be. You shouldn't be allowed to write them. I can say them, though.
You can say them. You can say them in the comments, but if we say them, you come punch us in the face.
No, for sure. Yeah, no, I agree. There should be a written policy against that.
Look at that 2-spoke steering wheel. That's amazing.
Oh, man, look at that.
Hey,
anyway, so
yeah, no.
plenty of
So
that
the
kind of weird
JDM for sure, though. Now that we're getting into the meat of the '90s being importable, now it's going to start getting very exciting.
Yeah, we've seen it recently. 25-year cars are including all sorts of crazy stuff now, and we've had, anyway, a good variety of models, a good, the Porsche narrative has simmered down. That was such the narrative for so long.
Yeah.
Was like, oh, the Porsche community and all this one mark or nothing else sort of conversation. And I've always, as you know, on BAT, it's always been way more variety driven and schizophrenic than that. Like I can only drive one mark for like a couple weeks and then I want to switch it up. So it's been cool to see other stuff get the headlines, I'd say, over the last 6-8 months as the Porsche stuff has simmered down. It's still strong. There's still interesting Porsches transacting, but then you listed Corvette Baja car, right?
Yeah, I don't know what that is, but it looks amazing. It's
unbelievable.
$24,000?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
It's a 99 Camaro Corvette dune buggy.
Look, I mean, that's a car.
This is the kind of stuff I love, right?
That
Which
is
just
a car,
some maniac built this thing, and it got everybody. I mean, the vibe of the tires and the
it looks great.
And stuff
It's literally
kind of cool.
It looks like if you took a Corvette, removed the body, made an XO type cage thing, and it's fucking crazy.
Really? Yeah, but I think it has like
auction,
vet suspension travel, right? It probably has like 3 inches of suspension travel, so you hit like a jump and like break your spine.
This looks like Batman's Tumbler when the Tumbler turned into a motorcycle. It's like someone crashed a Corvette and then it reassembled itself. Like it moved the muffler to the top of the trunk instead of down below. It looks rear engine, but it's not.
Though,
but it's really cool.
I bet that's really fun for 20 minutes. I bet that's a great 20 minutes of just rowdiness. It looks hilarious.
LS in it. Zach, how'd you pull that up? You been watching that? You had that up your sleeve or what?
No, man. I was looking at the homepage and I saw that. I was like, I'm not going to not look at Corvette Baja car because buy this, put some King shocks on it, and freaking go for it, dude.
Yeah, 24 grand. Wow.
Good to have crazy
Someone
stuff,
got good money for their Corvette Baja car.
I love it.
Rules.
But yeah, I like Bring It Together because it really, you guys do sell kind of the myriad of cars, regardless of generation, interest, performance, whatever. But somehow most of it is stuff I'd want to have. If you had unlimited money, be like, yeah, that thing, and that thing, and that thing. And just need a stadium.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, it was always like that. That's sort of the DNA. Auctions or before auctions, right? It was always like, okay, here's 1,000 cars online. What's the coolest one of all of them? Like, let's look at that for a minute, right? So we try to still do that. And the guys that vet the cars here, it's like a crazy job, but they pick the good stuff, and we end up with stories like that car that people are excited about.
I want that wide body Benz. It ends like later tonight. This Euro, it's like super Euroed out, but it's also spent time in Japan. So the outside is like Russian mafia. The inside is Japanese Yakuza. It's really, really strange.
Good color.
They do it with a 2.8 liter car. Like, they didn't want it to go fast at all. It's designed to go like 40 miles an hour, right?
Yeah, but it'd be a great airport shuttle, wouldn't it?
Yes.
It'd be a perfect airport shuttle.
That or the Delica. I don't know, man.
I'm using the Delica. No, the Delica
know, that's
is
your
the
shuttle,
Delica
right?
is the
That's
actual,
how you're going to get me from LAX to your facility, right?
Yes, and I picked up someone recently in it that is very, very wealthy, and they thought it was hilarious. There was no snobbery about this person at all. They thought it was a perfect airport shuttle.
Did they sit in the
vehicle.
front or the back?
The back.
Nice.
It was awesome. It was very. It's got captain's chairs back there. I saw the whoever's running your social tweeted about it. Delicas are up.
That's right. That was actually me, buddy.
Oh, was it?
That.
Oh, you're just throwing me a bone. Thanks.
I just dive bomb into the social every once in a while. My team, it drives them crazy, but I do it. I love it.
How about I want you to dish me a little dirt. You don't have to name names, but can you tell me, has anyone gotten cold feet after winning and begged you to let them out or reverse the auction or anything like that recently?
Oh man,
Buyer's
there
remorse?
are some people that have problems with follow through or the truth in their lives. We deal with those people from time to time. Thankfully, it's a community model, and so you kind of get voted off the island immediately if you pull that kind of noise. So there's a lot of reason not to do that sort of stuff, thankfully. But we try to welcome everybody in and give everybody one shot. And if they kind of shoot themselves in the foot, unfortunately, they get launched. And yeah, we see that. I mean, at this sort of volume, you're going to see that sort of thing, right?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Is it more common that someone buys and wins a bid when they really couldn't or shouldn't have, or people that put a car up for sale and then they see the response and they go, maybe I do love this thing. Maybe I should keep this thing. Like, which one of those is more common?
No, sellers follow through because the fee's super low. It's not the money that keeps them in, but it's the bids usually end up reasonably good, right? I mean, it builds a lot of visibility. Like, where are you going to go after you don't use BAT? Maybe you're going to keep it. You change your mind, but we'd let them set a reserve. And typically we don't have any sort of problems with sellers following through. It can be more, I mean, some people run their lives looking for excuses not to do something as opposed to excuses to follow through and make things happen. And so we see that, and we got a team here that has to work with some people that do that sort of thing. And, we just try to keep people on the up and up. We got to purge the system and send those people back to whatever other auction online
that feels
site
like the friendliest Tony Robbins speech about collecting money. Like you're the PR guy for the mafia. Like, we have people that assist our customers in fulfilling their financial obligations. And he's like, hey, you bought this 72 Datsun, you better pay for this fucking 72 Datsun, all right?
Yeah, no specifics. I will give you no specifics. You said no names, I will give you no specifics. But we have methods. We have methods, and we have to talk to some folks, and I mean, there's people out there that are, the dog ate my homework, or my kid bid instead of me, or whatever.
You got to keep a password on that shit. Well, no, you don't want to have your kid log in your account and be like, ooh, Ferrari,
red car,
red car. Yeah, get a password.
Like the kid who took his parents' car and attempted to drive to California to test drive a Lambo, who was then rewarded by being flown on a private jet to California. That kid did not learn his lesson at all. He learned that if you steal your parents' car and tell the cops you were going to California to drive a Lamborghini, they'll put you on the news, and Lamborghini owners will give you stuff. That dude got driven to Jamie Foxx's house in a Lamborghini.
What?
Yeah, and he's going to do it again. I bet he'll go do it again,
What lesson
right?
did the kid just learn? He just learned, I get to do, if I steal my parents' car, I get to meet Jamie Foxx.
Oh my God. I did not follow through that story.
Yeah. Well, you know who took him? You know who took him? The Wires Only guy. Because of course he did.
All right.
Anyway, Randy, I think one of the things you should never do on Bring a Trailer is misrepresent your car or try and pull one over on somebody, because man, will the commenters eat you alive if that happens. It's so bad. Did that happen just on its own, Randy?
No, I mean, we've been working with the community and figuring out what the conversation should look like for a long time. There's always been, this. I mean, watch any comment stream online or on YouTube or whatever. There's people that go off the rails, or some people have really good things to say. So we've, always wanted to steer the conversation towards being what we call constructive, right? Like, keep it constructive. Talk about the car. Talk about, don't veer off into politics and.
It manages to avoid being a total cesspool, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, and
that's
it has to be managed to do that, and we have to have some. And some people are like, oh, these are my rights. I can say whatever I please. And we're like, actually, why don't you try to get it together? So we have to monitor that, and it's an important thing to do. And we think have we done a perfect job? Probably not, but have we done a pretty good job of paying attention and managing that? People tend to give us feedback that buying or selling, like you have to be open to having somebody say something you might not love, but at the same time, it's a pretty honest, open discussion, and it leads to a lot more confidence, which is what you need on the internet. Like, if you have no confidence, or if it feels like an empty room and you're vulnerable, you're never going to bid on a car in one of these sort of lifeless auctions. You got to have some life to it and some people around that make it feel like a more inviting place to discuss and be open and honest. And that's what we've tried to create.
I'm telling you, dude, the live commentary webcast for these auctions, like, they just, you know what I mean? The only reason people talk about Mecum and Barrett Jackson is because the live broadcast, you know what I mean? If it was just contained in the tent and never made it to TV, it wouldn't be nearly the thing. But like
True.
the commentary from the commentators is great. You know what I mean? I think like if you had, because you got what, 60 a day? Is that what you said, Randy? 60 a day?
60 a day.
Man, if you had the last 10 minutes of every auction live commentated, that'd be.
You want to be up in the booth, man? You want to be up in the booth with me and we're breaking it down on all the cars ending, or what do you want to do?
It's not a bad gig.
Yeah, it's a good gig for sure.
It's a pretty good gig.
Does it help?
A lot of yapping. I don't know. I think it could be a great form of entertainment. Honestly,
I like it as long as it doesn't get salesy. You know, I mean, what else you don't find with our site that you find some other places? It's like the oh my goodness, this is the best 240Z that there's ever been, and it's unbelievable, and it's gonna get you a girlfriend, and it's gonna be amazing.
Think it's gotta be that.
All that stuff is just so bad.
I don't think it's got to be that. I don't think the other auction.
But it could be cool. We could do it in a cool way, and we've talked about it. You know,
we should try it. We should try to do it once. We should commit one day to it and see how it goes.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like this. That's talking about that vet, right? I mean, there's some cool commentary that you could add, and there's cool people you could have do it.
Yeah. Yeah. What is in the warehouse behind you in this shot that we're looking at of you? Because I'm actually sitting quite far away from the monitor, so I can't really see. I just see outlines.
Yeah, so we got all sorts of weird stuff. This is not a virtual background. I could walk back here and touch these.
It does look like it, doesn't it?
It kind of does look like a virtual
it kind of does. I thought that when I put it up. I was like, wow, they're going to think this is green screen. This is fake. But no, this is real deal. And a couple of these are staffers on our team. If you're on the team here, we have room now to have some cool cars in the shop, which is fun. A couple of them get worked on. A couple of them just seem to, park and look pretty. Mine tend to blow the engine and kind of end up here for long amounts of time. This one, where am I? Over here. This is a Lancia Fulvia, belongs to a team member of ours. Super cool, interesting Italian car. This
very
FJ back
weird
here
car. Very
Fulvias are weird. Front wheel drive, vintage car.
V4, really weird sounding engine.
V4, yep. Anyway, I can walk you through them. Yeah, then we got an FJ, mine back here with a Chevy V8 in it. We've got a Volvo wagon up on the lift currently. I'll move out of the way. We've got a sweet little 911 here in the middle, a little hot rod. We've got my 94 Toyota pickup. Do you guys see the Back to the Future cars that sold on BAT?
Yeah, of course. The black truck.
DeLorean. Of course you saw it, dude. You're signed up for DeLorean. I'm a
super
updates.
nerd. Yeah. No, the truck, right? The
truck was bigger news than the DeLorean. It sold for more money than the DeLorean. And
what did the truck get?
55 grand or something like that. Unreal, but it was crazy, man. I saw it in person. The thing was absolutely insane, crazy condition.
Was that truck built to be a movie truck replica, or is it coincidental?
No, it was replica. He had the hoverboard with it. He had the Marty McFly stuff. He had the KC covers. The license plates were California replica plates of the ones in the movie.
Oh yeah, he had props. Are those Air Mags? Those aren't Air. Are those real Air Mags? No, those are prop.
This guy played the nostalgia fiddle perfectly.
If those are Air Mags, the shoes are 5Gs.
Are they? Well, they could. I don't know.
I don't think.
I don't know the shoes. I know the skateboard and I know the truck, but I don't know the shoes.
It's a beautiful truck. Because, I mean, in that one, you get the double bonus, right? You get the Back to the Future. You get the fact that the regular, you don't have to build a time machine. It's a regular truck that is in the movie and recognizable. And it's a first-gen 4Runner. Yep. You know what I mean? Even by itself, forget the movie, that thing is 30 grand.
Yeah.
Yep.
You know,
and dorks like me, I mean, when I watched that movie, dude, I know you're a DeLorean guy, but I didn't want the DeLorean. I wanted the pickup, you know?
Well, you were right and I was wrong.
I was like right in the wheelhouse of this listing, and I was like, oh, look at this truck.
Yeah.
So he's got Marty's truck and taking it to the lake with Jennifer. I mean, it's like unbelievable.
55 is a big number for one of those, but I see it. I see it in the pictures. The value's there.
It's crazy.
It would take more to build it yourself.
Yeah, it would. And it's just rare in that condition. So anyway, there's been crazy stories like that. But then there's also, I mean, the stuff that I love is not necessarily like setting 60 grand numbers for solid axle Toyotas. That's a little crazy. But there's just been super cool. You mentioned first gen 4Runners. There's been a Pathfinder that went through. There's been VW GTIs lately have been getting a ton of attention.
Callaway one was the jam.
Yeah, and Reeves Callaway is in there like talking in the comments. That's unbelievable, right? I mean, that sort of stuff is what makes my day. And the fact that there's a forum where legit people like that can be talking about cars that are not supercars of the day. They're like these stuff that we all kind of saw and wanted in high school. And it's like, they're getting some love and they're getting a cool forum where they can be talked about.
We had one of those weird interactions last week where Zach posted something on our Instagram about the Oldsmobile Aerotech. Remember that thing?
Totally.
That like streamliner thing they built? Well,
Yep.
Zach posted some, we talked about it on another show, and Zach posted a highlight clip from the podcast. Well, like a couple of the people, like Ed Wellburn was the first comment on the fucking post, and then 2 other people that were like, oh, Dad designed that in the 80s. It was the kids of the guy who designed it.
What?
Were chiming in. Yeah, it was awesome. Go back on the Instagram post and read the comments. It was cool as hell, but Ed Wellburn was the first comment. I was like, oh, shit, we found one.
Yeah, that's so cool when
Yeah,
people
it's
like that
crazy.
come out of the woodwork and you didn't even know they were following, and then all of a sudden they're engaging.
Yeah.
So I think that's really kind of cool stuff, and those stories happen a lot on BAT because of the community and the commenting. So it's great.
I'm trying to think. What's the other new news? Oh, I wanted to ask you about the premium auctions because you're going hard at the old guard with that. You're going up against Gooding and RM and these guys that really do they present the cars at another level. How's that been going for you guys?
It's great. Yeah, Zach can pull that page up. We've had a consistent offering there, and those are a lot of the higher end cars where people want some help listing them, and people are kind of expecting a very different service. So we offer that now, and that has brought in a ton of really interesting inventory, right? Lambo Isleros and stuff like that. And a lot of early, Porsche Speedsters and Roadsters cars. Dinos, man, we've had a run of Dinos. We sold a metallic brown Ferrari Dino yesterday, I think.
I like the Dino in brown. That's good.
Scroll down, you'll see it. Yeah, here's 4 or 5 that are on there right now.
Lister
which are
Jag,
pretty cool.
365 GTC4. I like the Duesenberg. That's kind of cool.
That's crazy. First ever Duesenberg on BAT. It's kind of awesome.
Yeah. And then the DBAR1, which is absolutely heinous looking, but I understand. They really,
not good.
Crazy.
Zagato, you flip a coin with Zagato, and it's either the prettiest thing ever made, or you just like, oh god.
Yeah.
It's a great gull wing with some rudges on it in the right color.
Third picture over, right there. You're looking at it.
Oh yeah,
third
brown
picture over
Dino.
is that Dino.
Look at that metallic brown. That's a great
just different,
color.
Right? Not the standard red Dino, and cool alloys and different sorts of stuff. So yeah. Anyway, premiums are rocking and rolling. There's a lot of. You say we're going after the other auction houses. We're just giving these guys have an alternative and want to try something different and don't want to be on hold till things come back. And we've been excited to be able to offer them something that's a little bit more hands-on and assistance oriented, but also they get I don't know if you saw it, they get longer on the site. So that Dino, I think,
it's like 3 weeks or something.
Yeah, 10 or 14 days. Not crazy, too much longer, but some more exposure, and you can see how many views it gets. It gets a lot of visibility on BAT, and it ends up there's plenty of people around with $390K in cash to go buy a car, which is surprising on some level, but also maybe
it's like the same 6 people
other...
buying everything, dude. It's like 12 people buying all the cars.
It's actually not, man.
I know.
It's there's a lot of people moving stuff around and buying stuff. We're continually surprised at new signups, right? You'd think, okay, 6 years, like all the dudes signed up in the first year and they're just all trading now. It's actually not. The highest ever sign up week was, I think, 2 weeks ago in terms of new signups.
Really?
So it's
the
infiltrating.
Highest
it's
ever sign up week was 2 weeks ago.
Yep.
Are you having an influx or increase of people putting stuff up for sale or buying, or just even?
We got to keep them even, right? The whole auction model is you got to have the buyers and the sellers.
Right,
so
but is the submissions up?
Submissions is like way up.
Yeah.
We're having trouble
Everybody
keeping
wants
our
a car.
arm around it. It's like a line around the block in terms of getting things through. So, but we're ramping up. You may have seen. We post things that we're hiring and adding more staff. And frankly, we feel just really fortunate in this environment. I know many companies are like that, right? If we owned a restaurant or whatever, we wouldn't be jumping for joy. We're trying to be sensitive to that. So we've done some cool charity things and have been trying to be sensitive to that while also giving people a outlet where they can be fired up about cars and maybe buy something if they want.
Hey, I'm sure you're always making moves and doing the next thing. So I'm sure you've thought of this, but like considering you have so many submissions and you have so few room, so little time in a day to run the amount of auctions that you're running, and your strategy of growing both at the same time makes total sense. But have you ever considered having like a BAT classifieds where if it doesn't make the auctions, they can self-list over on the side for, a small fee and just sell it like you would on Craigslist, but with that access to the Bring a Trailer audience, so at least they can get to the same people.
It's a good question. Yeah, we have thought of that. We've talked about having like, we turn away some cars.
Yeah.
Where do they go? Obviously, they go off to some other venue. Is there a way to capture that or help those?
There's got to be a real catchy name you can use for the sub site. Have you thought of the real catchy name?
Man, we've thought of all sorts.
Bring a wrecker.
Like, I'd love to hear yours. I'd love to hear your ideas.
Bring a wrecker.
Oh man, there's all sorts of
bring a paint gun.
Bring a tower. Bring a trailer.
I don't know.
So we've thought a lot of that sort of stuff. And at the end of the day, like classifieds is sort of a broken model, right? I mean, you post a car and then somebody comes and tries to grind you down on price. Price goes down and it's this kind of not fun feeling. If you underprice it, it flies off the shelf. Like auction is so ideal for special vehicles. It's just perfect. It's the best way to do pricing. Like whoever bids and charges hardest gets the car, and it could go way up or it could go right about what you want, and you're protected with a reserve. So it's hard. Like I fundamentally think auctions are better than classifieds. So
I agree with you.
Whenever we get into it, like maybe we should do classifieds, it's like, but then you're mixing your message. You're telling people classifieds are cool and auctions are cool, and that's actually not true. So a big thing for us is, a clear message. What are we offering? What's the right way to sell a car? And we believe that that's auction, and that's why we developed this product the way we have. So developing a classified site, we've never been stoked about it. It would be sort of we're coerced to do that for some reason. So that's at least our current thinking. I could be outvoted eventually. My staff could, come after me and be like, we really got to do this. Maybe let's think different ways. But that has carried us really far. And the great stuff at auction, as you're seeing with all these examples, does really well. And so we're excited to keep doing auctions.
I agree. I think you're right. Probably the consistency of message. I hear you talking about we have so many submissions. We have to turn all these people away.
What do you do with them?
Yeah. And I'm just thinking, man, not only could you find a revenue stream from something else that those people could use to sell their cars, but also I think the people that really want to see even more weird cars via Bring a Trailer could possibly, be redirected to a sub site, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Of some kind.
No, it's interesting. But I mean, people ask us all the time, like, what are the main reasons cars get turned away? And two of the big ones are, it's a bad car. It's not something that you would want, or it's way overpriced. And frankly, if either of those show up on a classified, it doesn't really solve it. Then you just have a bunch of overpriced junk.
Then you have DuPont Registry. Sorry.
Or most classifieds, right? You're like, oh, interesting car. How long has it been on here? Oh, 9 months it's been on here. Like, what are we doing? Like, do they even really want to sell it?
I know what I have. All caps.
Totally. I mean, all that sort of universe. And that's what's so cool about our vetting is that, like, it's like the cars are here to sell. They're not here to, like, sit around. So anyway, auctions aren't perfect, classifieds aren't perfect, but we think we've engineered auctions to be pretty cool and pretty excellent. And the cars that we turn away, we're sad for that sometimes. Sometimes we want them and we're like, man, at a different number or with some different, documentation or treatment of the car, it could be great for BAT. We'd love to have you back, or come on, like, let's work through this together. And we can't get them all for whatever reason. Yeah. So we thankfully have more than enough.
I've had 2 very good selling experiences, actually. One very stressful selling experience, and then one
was very
much
funny.
less stressful.
Which one, Fox or DeLorean was stressful?
The DeLorean was really stressful because it super stalled $500 above my reserve for 6 days.
Man.
And then it went nuts. In the last 10 minutes, it went nuts, and then the auction was extended by almost an hour because it kept going and going. And ultimately, I got a phenomenal number and was very happy. And the owner, the guy who bought it, was very happy. And the Mustang was great because, you put something up there for no reserve. And for me, if I want to sell something, it's easy for me to say mentally, okay, I'm selling it. It's gone. Let's put it out there, and the market will determine. It's worth what someone's willing to pay for it. So here we go.
Yep. And our audience plus your audience, no reserve.
Yeah.
I mean, that all just goes together really well. And yeah, I don't know. You get no. Interestingly, on that, no reserve, Zach. If you go type in no reserve or pull it out of the drop down at the top of the page, that's like our third most popular page now on the whole site. If you go to auctions and roll over it and go to no reserve, we didn't used to have a page for no reserve, but look at that, 71 auctions now.
That's good.
Out of the 300. So what is that? I don't know, 20%.
Look, people want out of their stuff. People are want to sell.
And people go no reserve. And I think that is it's just sort of a strategic move because people know it's going to go. So they bid and go after it. Oh, man.
Oh, bro, 37,000 miles. Did it get more than the Supra?
Oh, man.
My grandma had that Cadillac, the 90 Eldorado, but I think the 4-door, which was the Fleetwood, I think.
You got some like obscure cars, some wheels, cool motorcycles, a NASCAR display chassis, like
that's kind of
R129,
and then of course the sick Integra.
I could put the NASCAR display chassis in my lobby.
There you go.
Cut it in
Keep
half.
going. We'll find a display on this page.
I could just cut
Keep
it in
going.
half right down the middle and hang it on the wall.
Don't put the K car. Keep going, Zach. Keep going. Gotta find something.
Yeah, how's the market for Chrysler TC by Maseratis?
Oh man, those weren't all of them like pale yellow or something?
There's two in my neighborhood that are both pale yellow. I did just
We might have had one of those. If I was still doing the curation, I don't know if we'd ever have one of those, but I think the team was like, let's try something crazy this week. And so I think I'm not sure. Maybe we haven't.
The nicest one in the world is $3,500.
Totally.
They're terrible.
Right.
Look, a Nagaro Blue S4.
I
didn't think there was any Nagaro Blues left. I thought they were all
aftermarket
totaled.
wheels on it, but I think it may be pretty stock other than that.
Yeah.
I forget, but higher miles, 150K or something.
Oh.
Did you believe in the curse of the Nagaro Blue, Randy? Do you remember that?
I don't know. What was that?
Well, there was a thing. There was a belief back then in 01, 02 that Nagaro Blue was a cursed color, and people would disproportionately crash them. And I personally knew 4 people that crashed and totaled Nagaro Blue S4s into stationary objects. Back in the day, people didn't understand that all-wheel drive didn't affect your brakes. And they thought that you could get an S4 and go 150 miles an hour up like the freeway and that you didn't have to slow down for things. And so everybody just hit trees and shit.
Well, how many colors did that car come with? I remember the yellow and Nagaro blue, and then I'm sure it was sold in black,
white,
but like
silver,
and red, right?
They had navy blue. They had
navy.
red.
You could get all the Audi colors.
So like white was rare. White was super rare, right?
But my thought was like
yellow was popular.
Imola yellow.
Like it wasn't like blue was the only extroverted color that would draw in all the idiots. Like there were lots of colors for the idiots to purchase.
No.
So what was it about the blue cars?
They were. It's really hard to find one. They were all crashed. There's none left. Yeah. If you see one that's got a clean title, it's like a unicorn. It's crazy.
Yeah. Wagon. S4 wagon.
Yeah. Oh my God. If you find a Nagaro Blue Avant, it's like, take my money, please.
Yes, please. Yep.
Those cars look so good. There's not many better looking sport wagons than that B5 S4 wagon. That was just that was
our
gorgeous.
S4 of that body style is like my absolute dream.
The best. What do you have your eyes on these days, Randy? What's
good
tugging
question.
at your bank account?
I'm into trucks. I don't know if you guys talk about trucks too much, but I've been looking at like 70s Chevy Cheyennes, and I've been looking at Blazers, and I've been looking at stuff that I can fit my family and my kids in. I've got this FJ. Over here. I've got this FJ over here, and it's not super great for hauling a lot of people around, but it's kind of my high school throwback when I would drive around everywhere by myself. So I need extra doors and seats and cargo and that sort of stuff. So I've been thinking about doing that sort of stuff, kind of maybe that's a little bit of COVID lockdown, like fantasy of road trip and getaway type stuff. I've been thinking about that a fair amount. And I've been just trying to keep my existing stuff running. I recently, you can't see it, it's behind the screen right now. It's in the office here though, but I recently got a 92 16 valve GTI. I don't know if I've shown you that one, but was like another high school sort of, that's another car that there's none of them around because they were all crashed and junked.
Definitely.
Gone, right? I mean, I bought this one because I haven't seen a stock complete one forever.
Is that the one where the edges are rounded off a little bit?
Mark II.
It's Mark II.
Quad headlight, quad round headlight, 16 valve.
Okay.
Big bumper, it's called. It was, anyway, a car a bunch of people had in the early 90s. Kind of adjacent to the Scirocco's that we've been selling. So anyway, love that car. But I've always got my eyes open, man. But I kind of got enough headaches right now. I bought an American 50s car, a Chrysler. I've got the trucks.
You bought, is it a 300 you bought?
I bought a 300B Chrysler.
It's red, right?
Yeah.
Oh,
You've seen it around?
No, I've seen you driving it on your Instagram. And how does that drive? What's it like to, because those things are gorgeous, man. They look great.
Huge boat, American car. If you know your NASCAR history, there it is, man.
Yeah.
It won. So that's same car, same color. That one was at an auction elsewhere. That's a really high dollar restoration, but same car as that effectively. And always wanted one. That's my favorite 50s American car is that. And my dad and I have always liked those. That's the car that originated with the Hemi in it, right? So it actually won NASCAR, a big huge barge like that won NASCAR in 55 and 56.
Yeah, when they brought the 300 back, I remember Chrysler or Dodge like using that in the marketing, and it was like, and then they drove one, old one, new one, and all that stuff. All right.
Yep. Anyway, 300, and then those were called the letter cars, right? It goes all the way A, B, C, D, F, G, all the way into the 60s, of a bunch of big Hemis in big sort of that was their version of a sports sedan, right? They had the more sort of banker's car, and then that was like the sport model with the Hemi in it.
The good
so
road
anyway,
trip
it was
that thing.
Super cool car. Drives like you're sitting on a couch with a bunch of one finger power steering, power windows. It's got a power bench seat that goes back and forth.
The whole bench.
The whole bench.
That's
across the
awesome.
front.
Oh, it looks good in black. Looks very
Black's
good in black.
Yep, that's a 55 with a slightly different little tail fin on it.
Right, a little bigger fin.
Super. It's got a push button transmission. You push these big like refrigerator buttons on the dash that switch between the automatic gears.
Oh, cool.
Anyway, weird car, right? A lot of people are like, Randy, is that your dad's car, or what's going on? What are you doing with that thing? And I was like, I'm into variety, and I'm kind of trying to check some boxes of like the coolest cars that I've always wanted. And so rolled that thing in here, and it actually almost fits between these posts. Kind of weave it in here. We've had it in here a couple times, and 50s American is a cool category. There's a lot of interesting stuff there. But then, then I'll probably sell that eventually and move on to something else. Yeah, that's pretty much exactly the car.
I mean, nothing feels like these cars. I mean, they do, but you're not going to buy something new-ish that feels anything like those, sounds like them. Just the interior design that they were able to get away with, because it was so dangerous looking back on it. But man, I mean, like the shift columns with a bubble in it to show what gear you're in, and just amazing rounded metal for all the gauges. I mean, everything
jet
you touch
age
feels really
influence.
cool. Yeah, all the jet age
It's
stuff
all
is
jet
the
age.
shit.
Yeah.
Anyway,
love that
super
whole
cool.
Motorama era of GM, and like, this is great. I think if I was going 50s for me, it's got to be a Continental.
Yeah.
I think I have to be have you ever driven a Continental?
I have not. You mean the Mark II, the 1 year
Continental Mark
only?
II.
That's super cool.
Yeah. I feel like that would be the competitor to your 300, kind of.
It's it's similar. Big
What a
engine.
dash. Are those the buttons,
look at
those
that dash.
enormous buttons across the top of the dash there?
I love that you're finding these pics, Zach. That's like exactly my dash. That's the brightest brake indicator light I've ever seen in my life.
That's
Mine
really
is
aggressive.
Not that bright. But those switches up there, man, you feel like you're like in a 747. They're like clunk, 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 clunk.
And is that like a record player under the dash right there?
Funny that you say that. In this car, I don't have that option, but in that car, what you see there is a record player.
I love that they used to
Awesome.
do that. So great.
Awesome.
You'd have to have a real floaty suspension because you've got a record in there.
You can't skip the needle, right? Yeah, you can't scratch the.
That's
can't scratch
hilarious.
The records.
That's hilarious. What a great car.
It's cool. You should come see it. Plenty of room in it. It's a ton of fun.
What are the different materials on the steering wheel rim?
Good question. So it's got oh man, I know we can go deep on this if you want to go deep.
Well, the steering wheel's got like 3 different colors on the rim. What am I
No, but go
looking
back to the
at?
previous one. That's a 55. That's not what you want. You want a 56.
That's
the one
mislabeled.
You just had.
The one you just had.
Boom.
Yeah. Okay.
So this is the exact dash and steering wheel that I have. So those chrome things on the side are where you put your thumbs. So those are for your thumbs. You're not supposed to drive at 10 and 2. You're supposed to drive at 4
Underhand.
and 8.
That's like gangsters drive.
Yes.
Like a modern
And
Phantom.
then-
Where the fingerprints are.
And then there's those finger pads, and the white part is like this. It's called Bakelite, I think, or I don't know.
Oh
what
yeah,
it is.
Bakelite. Yeah. They used
But
it in
it's down
watches in the
there.
50s and 60s too. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's you hold your hands down there, and then the black rim all the way around, and then the horn. It's got a horn on it that sounds like it's like a tugboat, right? Like
good.
you hit it, and it's like train horn.
It's fantastic.
Anyway, it's cool. We ought to ship it down and put it at West Side
Please.
Electric Car Storage.
Oh, please. It would look fantastic.
But it's 19 feet long, dude. How long are your spots?
How long's the wheelbase?
I don't know.
I got
Probably
my
most of
limit
that.
is a 15-foot wheelbase.
The rear overhang is about 7 feet. It feels like.
It should be fine.
No,
I don't know
you'd
what
be
it
okay. The wheelbase is more important than the overall length because the lifts are spaced apart.
I put it on my lift. This lift back here with the Volvo on it, like the
Okay.
Chrysler goes up on that lift.
Cool. Yeah, no, it'll fit. It'll be fine. Yeah.
Anyway,
next
it'd
time
just be a cool car to mob around in
Oh
down
my
in
god,
LA.
it's
It'd be
gorgeous.
perfect.
I love it.
Thanks for asking about it. I'm
looks
glad you're psyched on that
fucking
car. That car
good.
makes me happy.
Yeah, it should. It should. What's your modern car? Do you have a regular daily these days?
I'm driving. I mean, as modern as I've gotten is into the 90s. So that GTI is being driven. I drove the R5 Turbo today up to the office. You know that car?
The Renault R5 Turbo?
Yes.
Oh, that's a real car.
Yeah.
1985. Is that modern enough? I don't know. It's not real modern.
It's
but
not what I
it's,
meant by the question, but I love the car anyway. How are
newest
those to drive?
newest car I've got is the 94 pickup, closely followed by the GTI, and then closely followed by that's the R5.
These are so
Tell me
cool.
about the R5. I've never driven one, but they look amazing.
Oh, they're nuts. I mean, it feels like it wants to kill you whenever you're driving it, either through like spin out turbo boost or through some sort of fire incident.
Does the cabin get real hot through the engine?
It actually doesn't, but I mean, it's right there. It like could happen anytime. I mean, that's what they're famous for, right? So, but
for those who
I've
have
had
no
it
idea what we're talking about, the Renault R5 Turbo the engine is behind the seats. It's a hatchback, so but it's mid rear.
Mid-engine,
Yeah,
technically
mid-engine.
mid. Yeah, it's got a transaxle back there, and it's somehow they fit the whole engine between the rear axle there that you see and those bucket seats, right? I mean, it's like
Got the huge rear fenders that are so awesome. I'm sure the rear track is how much wider is it than the front track? Just
much.
much,
tires
right?
on that.
Yeah.
Hey, here's a question for you, Matt. What tires you got on your Lamborghini?
Pirelli P0s, the new ones, the reissues.
You got Okay, cool. So this car, the way I found tires for this car is I put Pirelli Cinturados on it, and the rear spec on this car is the front spec on your Lambo. Like people put those on the front of your Lambo. Yeah.
I think I have a 225 14 on the front of my Lambo. Is that what that is?
Interesting.
Maybe a 15.
I gotta go look. I don't think
15.
they're 14s. I thought they were 15s.
It might be 225 15.
I think it's 15.
That's hilarious.
But no, then maybe I have my stuff mixed up because I think it runs. Oh shoot, I'll run outside and look. But it's got wide sort of retro 80s looking Cinturados that they're selling now, which is pretty cool.
I love that Pirelli is starting to sell vintage tires again. There's a bunch of cars which became real hard to get tires for.
Yep, absolutely. 15s and even 16s. They've started to release some cool new tires. So super high fives to Pirelli for those. They're not cheap. They don't sell them for cheap anymore, but they look so right on that car. My guy that was setting it up for me and restoring the wheels and doing some things was like, are you going to put some like Nittos on it or what? And I was like, we got to find something legit, And
in the 15s, your only options are like shitty eco tires or super like Hoosiers.
Miata stuff.
No, and he wanted to put like semi-slick with like those like slashes across some tread, And I was like, that would look so lame. We can't do that. So if you can, you can't really zoom in on that shot, but the tread pattern is very 930 turbo of the era. It's super cool.
How is that car to use as a car? I mean, if you're not pushing it, if you're just driving it around the city, and is it like all right? Is it fairly normal? Or is it?
It's actually
weird all
great.
the time?
You got to keep the revs up a little bit. First gear is a little high, so if you're doing like big hills of San Francisco, it would get not super fun. But I mean, I cruised up on the freeway. You just get it into fifth, and it doesn't rev too loud. It's a French car, so the controls kind of feel like they're going to break any minute, right?
Yeah.
But the dynamics and the sound and the cool factor is like way off the charts, and the seats are cool.
Well, didn't you come out of a Delta Integrale and into that thing?
I did.
Yeah. So what was that? What was about the differences between those two? Because when I drove an Integrale, I was like, well, this is the direct ancestor of the Focus RS, 100%.
Yes.
And you could draw a straight line to the new Focus RS from the Integrale.
Totally. But the Integrale's got all-wheel drive, and it's got slightly less. There's no fear in it. It inspires confidence. This car does not inspire confidence. It inspires like, oh my goodness, when is it going to fly off the road? And the Integrale inspires like, oh, it's like a GTI or a WRX or a whatever that is sort of sure-footed because the the all-wheel drive saves you from your mistakes. In the Renault, like your mistakes are magnified. And I make a lot of mistakes. I'm not a race car driver by any means. I'm just kind of out having fun with it. So driving the R5 at like the edge is a risky proposition. Driving a Lancia Delta with the all-wheel drive, I feel like you can push that car with a lot more confidence. But
the
they're both
Integrale
pretty
is
crazy.
very nice to drive. That's a real good driving car. That
I remember you drove the one that belonged to the Canadian guy that was driving it across the country or whatever, and he stopped at BAT because I had a black one.
Yeah,
we got a picture, and then he went on, and then he was on your video. I watched.
Yeah,
your
he
videos.
drove it down from Vancouver. It was awesome.
Yeah, he was a cool dude.
And that car's on the list one day. I think they're getting expensive, aren't they? People are
some of them are, but I mean that's these like low mile perfect cars. My car's not really like that. It has sort of low miles, but it's been painted and it's been driven, and I like that for that car because I don't want to have to totally baby it and leave it around. I'm not much for super low mile cars the way some sort of folks are. So my Integrale's had the bumpers painted and has had, different stuff swapped out and aftermarket wheels and blah, blah, blah. And that makes it fun. You can still get them cheap for that, but I mean, cheaper than the crazy ones.
Yeah,
but
relatively,
I mean, it's probably worth $40,000. I don't know.
Yeah, cool.
50 grand.
I think it's a lot of fun for $40,000 is one of those.
It is.
Do you does that car have any street cred? You get stopped by folks in the street with that thing?
Both the Renault 5 and the Integrale get stopped. Mainly either because they're loud, so people why are you driving that? And then car geeks, car geeks like totally melt down. Right?
Yeah.
I drove both those cars as my sort of drivers to the Monterey week for different years, and people, particularly with the R5, like totally melt down and are like, I've never seen one of those in my life. Integrales are starting to be out there a little bit more, and people are starting to see them, but you could still, I mean, I don't know if I've ever seen another R5 like just on the road.
There's a couple. There's 2 or 3 of them in LA. I see them around.
That's cool.
At Cars and Coffee. There's a black. There's like that teal blue kind of color one, and there's a white one in LA. Yep. And every time I see them, they make me smile. I mean, it's such a charming looking little thing.
But it looks angry too.
Yeah.
It's got something going on. There's some mischief there.
They're cool as hell. They get driven. Yeah, they're rad.
Cool.
That's it. What's the most dude magnet car you've ever driven? Mine would be my Skyline R32 GTR. That was the car where women like nobody, but like fucking dudes were like, Skyline. Do you have one of those?
You probably picked the 2. I think it's these 2, right? Yeah, I mean, it's like car dork. What used to watch a lot of rally videos. Like that's who likes that car, right?
Yes.
And that's 0 females.
Colin McRae is my #1 search term on YouTube.
Totally. Like really deep into like the rally of Corsica or whatever.
Right.
It's like nobody normal does that stuff except for me and like I guess the people that stop me on the street driving those cars.
You want to talk about obscure rally cars? I had a little back and forth with Twitter this morning, and someone sent me an image of, I swear to God, in 1998, Lexus built an RX 300 rally car that
I saw your post this morning. I was
intrigued. Reese
Millen
raced in a rally, and apparently everyone laughed at him, and he did very, very well. And there's only like one picture of this thing, and it looks like a promotional brochure. It's on my Twitter feed, Zach. But
I saw it. It was like ripping through the dirt. Right?
Yeah, it's bitching. Oh, that was the press car. No, that was the press car. There was an actual race car.
Oh, I got to see that.
Look in the replies to that, Zach. It's in the replies to that post.
That's the one I saw.
So that's a picture of the press car, which I thought was hilarious. But keep scrolling down. You'll see someone posted a picture of the RX 300 rally car. That was it. Go up. Lexus Rally. Oh, shit. It's a video. Damn it. Sorry. The worst. Forget it. Bail.
Ooh, looked like there was an IS rally car.
I know, but we
too,
can't show YouTube on YouTube. We'll get in big trouble.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's copyright bullshit. But there's only like one image of this thing, and it had 4 big fog lights on it, full livery. It actually looked kind of like Dakar-esque. It was extremely cool. It was not in that video. Zach, I'm sorry. What else? We got a lot of questions from the fans, don't we? Oh boy, yes we do. Do we have any that were focused on Randy? I'm sure we do. Randy,
probably do.
are you good on
System.
time right now, brother?
I'm totally good. Yeah, he
Okay,
said
cool.
we'd do it till now, and then we do some questions. I'm totally up for it.
Yeah, we got a few questions for you. We'd like to get through these. Last couple of weeks we've ended up leaving people hanging. We feel bad about that, so we're gonna get through them today. Yeah.
We have some stuff. Yeah, some like BAT specific stuff.
Start
What's
with
this guy
that.
say? Ray Lee. There's sellers on Bring a Trailer that sell interesting cars, but they may not. Sentence is kind of poor. They may not be able to make them. They may not have the make and model that I follow. Is it possible for BAT to add a feature to follow a seller? So can you subscribe to a seller's feed if you see that they normally put up cool stuff?
Love that question. This guy knows what he's talking about. Sounds like he spent some time on the website. So yes, that's a feature we have in development. We've kind of some of these sellers have sort of created a name for themselves in terms of either selling a lot of cars or selling really cool stuff or really engaging well. And so we get a lot of requests for, hey, how can I be notified when this particular collector or this particular dealer or this particular individual wants to sell a car? So we're building that out. That will be out soon, I hope. We're trying to roll some cool features out here into the summer as we come. So we'll see when that one goes live. But right now you can follow a bunch of different models and makes, but you can't follow a seller. So that's what that guy is asking about. But that is something that we're going to build out.
Yeah, there's a lot of dealers that are really, really cranking out listings. Our friend Doug at Switch Cars has used you guys quite a few times. Yep.
And, dealers, you guys have experience with dealers. I have experience with dealers. And in the early days, some people would be like, oh, don't let dealers sell or whatever. But BAT kind of vets out, like terrible dealers can't do well on BAT. People who lie, people who won't talk, people who are overpriced, all the problems of like the bad rep of dealers. Those people don't come to BAT because it's too like visible and transparent, and they can't handle it. But the dealers that do come and do well are these guys that take great photos. They're like there to discuss things throughout the week. So it's not like the label dealer is the problem. It's like the type of dealer that can be problematic. So we love good dealers on BAT, and we love the fact that the terrible dealers go to the competition and are terrible there. It's actually a great dynamic that we try to encourage. So, anyway, like Switch Cars, super cool. We can list off a number of cool dealers that are doing stuff really well, and those guys thrive and have found that BAT works really well for them. So go for it.
Cool. What is your strategy for balancing the number of high dollar versus like lowish dollar submissions? Does site traffic alone ever correlate what gets accepted and denied?
Good question. Yeah, curation. How does it work? We don't shoot for only high dollar. We don't shoot for only low dollar. We shoot for a good mix, right? Like if you have all 100K cars, like there's a whole bunch of buyers that are not going to play ball there. If you have only $7,500 cars, there's a bunch of people that aren't going to be interested there. So we like a mix. And as you can see looking around me, like I've always liked cars that are, 10 grand, and I've always liked cars that are 80 grand. And it's just like, there's kind of something for everybody. So the main curation sort of mantra for us is like interesting stuff. Like we will see a, $7,500 Datsun 510 get 10 times the traffic of a, McLaren, new McLaren or whatever, right? Just because there's rabid audiences that like different stuff, and certain conversations will sort of ignite, and certain cars are just sort of more mellow, and it's not related to how much they cost necessarily. So we like to have a great mix, and that's good for traffic. That's good for just interest level, and that's good for the long-term health of the site. So that's what we curate for.
Cool.
Same guy says there's lots of R129s for sale recently. What is your general take on cars like this that vary greatly in price and mileage ratio?
I don't think I'm the biggest R129 expert on the line right now. I think we got Matt that probably wants to chime in and talk about that one.
I can talk about R129s, but let's get your take too.
I'll do a quick take and tee you up. But anyway, we see a lot of those submitted. There's a lot of them floating around. There are good ones out there, and there are terrible ones out there, obviously. And so we try to, again, do a mix. We don't want to have all, 10K bubble wrapped low milers that are going to be huge dollars. Like having one with some miles on it that's been well taken care of, like that car. Just a good mix of different color. We don't want everyone to be silver for the rest of time, which it sometimes feels like they are. We just try to have a cool mix of those. That's a cool model, and it's a very interesting and compelling thing that's right on this sort of bubble of vintage collector and modern usability with AC and automatic and everything else. So we see good interest in them, but we just try to have a good mix. And yeah, we've certainly had a lot of them on the site. If you go to search R129, you can see how many we've had in the scatter chart on the model page, and it's been a good number. But Matt, you're the hands-on experience. What do you say about those?
I mean, everything you said. The thing about 129s is there seem like a lot of them until you try to find a really good one. I think a lot of the best ones do end up on Bring a Trailer. Wow, that's a cool interior. That black and red interior, that's bitchin'. And why do they vary so much in price? Because in things that don't seem like they could be very expensive to fix, the difference between mint and almost mint can be enormous, because little things like cracked burlwood dash trim and missing little plastic trim pieces, or just little stuff, is shockingly expensive for one of these. So you can spend, 10 to 15 grand and get in one that from more than a couple feet away will look fantastic and operate exactly as it should. And you can use it as a driver. And like Randy said, heat and air conditioning and a good ride and a powerful engine, a convertible top and all those things. Great classic Mercedes styling. But to go from that $10,000 to $15,000 car to the mint $25,000 car will cost you $30,000. So it's and things that can really, if the top is torn, still functional but torn, that's 5 G's. If the hydraulics on the top don't work right, that's 5 G's. If it doesn't have a hard top, minus 5 G's. If it's red, plus 5 G's. And so there's a bunch of little things that can really affect the value. I will say that I bought mine. I drove it for 2 years. I put 8,000 miles on it, and all it cost me is the maintenance during that time. That's it. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So, you get in, you drive for a while, and you get out. And I think people tend to turn them over because they aren't quite as exciting to drive as they look, Mm-hmm. But they're a nice little commuter car, and they're comfortable, and, they're cool. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, look at that. That seems like a lot of metal for 14 grand.
It really was.
I mean, I don't know if that car's as perfect as those couple of pictures you showed. Thankfully on VAT, you can dig pretty deep in terms of, is it as nice as the first couple glamour shots? But man, 14 grand for that car.
I spent 17.5 on mine, and I would say it was probably in the 96th percentile of 500s, and it was great. And I would have done it again. It was great. Yeah,
that's a lot of car for that dope.
It is. Yes, tons of curb presence. Just looks, especially with the hard top on, it just looks great, and it'll keep looking great.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. One guy just says, throwback to the time I drunkenly bought a Mustang GT on BAT and then flew out and drove it 1,700 miles in 36 hours to catch another flight for work.
Nice.
That's rad. A bunch of people just kind of generally thanking us for the show. Thank you. Pat Howes has a question. His current weekend car is a lightly modified E30 convertible. Summer use only on Vancouver Island. He's 6'1", 240, family of 3. Wants to upgrade to a 996 convertible. Will he be disappointed?
Yes.
Because his whole family, his family in the back will be disappointed.
He's not fitting 4 people at 6'1" in a 996. Forget about it. He's nuts. He should buy a 535.
I was going to say, that guy's 6'1", 240 in an E30 convertible, right? I mean, it's time to go to 5 Series, 7 Series.
I was going to say a 535, right? Or like an E34 M5, maybe.
There you go.
Something like that.
I like that idea.
Seems like he likes roofless options.
Yeah.
Right, they're both verts.
Maybe one of those E-Class, those E320s from 94.
Yeah.
I've been amazed. I mean, I don't know how modern that guy wants to go. It sounds like he kind of likes a little bit of older years. But man, there's been some Porsche convertibles, 911 convertibles. The depreciation curves on some of those sneaking out like under 30 grand for a not that old 911 convertible. Convertibles trade at a discount over the coupes, right? So there's room for that guy to get into like a really nice car for probably in the low 20s, medium 20s.
Wow.
And you could go 996, or you could go a little bit. I mean, you can probably get in a 997, or I don't know if you can get in a 991 yet, but
not for 30.
take a look at those numbers. Take a look at numbers. I would consider a 997 vert and maybe going even inching a little bit newer than a 996 if that was of interest. But there's a lot of those transacting, and like I say, the convertibles trade at a discount, so you can get in a lot of car.
But if you're over 6 feet, you're not using that back seat in a 911. I'm sorry.
No,
you're just not.
even,
Like his kids can't roll with. Basically.
Bro, how about this? How about like an '07 Bentley GTC?
Wow.
That's like $50,000. It is.
But what are the maintenance bills will be worse than a BMW.
Expensive. Yeah, $2,500 brake jobs.
You're in a weird spot. You should get like a Sebring. Get a Sebring convertible.
No.
Like, you'll all fit.
We meant a Maserati Sebring.
There you go.
My neighbor has a Maserati Sebring. It's fucking sick.
I actually like those a lot. From
They're-
the 60s,
oh,
quad
amazing.
headlight, straight six.
Yeah. You ever seen a Maserati Sebring?
I don't think so.
It's an absolutely stunning car. Looks like everything
yeah.
Italian from the period.
Yep, it
Those
does.
are
Looks like
cool.
Lambo, 400
Italian
GT
GT
Lambo,
car,
everything.
yeah.
Everyone did good work for like a week together. That was really good.
There you go. That second one was from BAT, that silver one. Yeah, I like those. Those
That's
cars
a
lot.
really nice car.
Daniel Berman says, I'm moving to LA from New York. Will I survive? Yes, it's easier to live here than New York, I think.
Yeah.
All right, Joe Leonard says, has the Human Driving Association taken advantage of the lockdowns and stay at home? He thinks this is a great example of how self-driving cars could be used to prevent travel. And he expanded on this in the chat and said, well, they could use a driverless car to like deliver food and other things so that people don't have to interact with each other.
I suppose, yeah, but we're so far away from having a car that will go out without a person. We're so far from that. It's just, it's going to be decades before that happens. And it's not because the technology for a car to move around slowly won't exist, but it's because of the insurance and the liability. No one's going to want to underwrite that.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was said for a long time that we were pretty close, right? I mean, there were a lot of optimists, I thought.
Yeah,
that were
well, there
like,
was a lot of-
I don't
there-
know.
there was a lot of money to be made.
2022, 2024, we're going to start to see all this
It
sort
was
of
all
stuff.
bullshit, Randy.
And I think people adjusted. People adjusted significantly.
The stock
after-
price depended on it, buddy.
Yeah. It seemed like there was a lot of like private money just going into any like autonomous cars. I think for the last year were like the Bitcoin of 2019. It was just like, hey, me too, man. I'm also opening an autonomous company and we're gonna be ready real soon. And there are some that are doing really good work, but not everybody.
Yeah.
I like the concept. I just think, like you said, Matt, it's a lot further out than it was. I mean, we actually thought about that for BAT, right? Like, oh man, if nobody's driving old cars or old cars are outlawed and it's all just going to be appliances cruising around with no driver and your Uber and stuff. And we're like, is that a threat?
No.
And then we're like, you know what? You know how many decades it's going to take? So there's so much room. And I'm super encouraged by that because I want to keep being able to drive and do that in cool ways. And I think it's going to evolve. What vintage car and sports car ownership looks like is going to evolve for all of us, but I think the future is really secure in that, and I'm encouraged by that.
It's decades, and honestly, for fans of vintage cars, the worst case scenario, really, for fans of vintage cars, climate change catastrophes aside, is you really won't be able to live in the middle of the dense city with the vintage cars.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
You know what I mean? You might have to move out to the suburbs a little bit if you want to keep the vintage cars. I think that because it may become a like in this no gas powered vehicles in the city center kind of thing. You know, but
And that could be fine, honestly. That's
but like
that's not,
in banning this kind of stuff in America, like forget it, dude. You can ride a horse down the street still in America. They're never banning that shit.
I was at a gas station in Nevada and two girls rode up on horses and tied them up, and I was getting gas, and I just couldn't believe where I was.
Our friend is a vice principal or principal at a high school east side of L.A., way out east, where L.A. basically meets the desert, and he has multiple students that ride horses to school.
wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Like straight caballeros.
That's pretty cool. I mean, to us it's cool. To them, they're like, man, I can't wait to get a car.
For them, they're like, I have 1 horsepower.
Oh wow. But it can go anywhere.
Yeah.
That's pretty interesting.
Yeah, but you got someone to hang out with too, not just a car. Yeah. What else you got, Zach?
We
Anything
can't
else?
carry a friend with
Randy.
you. Old car problem just says great podcast. He signed his name Joe Bring a Trailer Auction Specialist.
Oh,
and,
cool.
And last one is Stefan Aldrich said he's looking at an F-Type 400 Sport
Is that what they call the V6S now?
Yeah, V6 for 40. He's in Britain, 42 pounds, 42,000 pounds. An F-Type R for 48,000 pounds, or a 718 Cayman for 45,000 pounds. They're all 3 years old. They're all automatic. They're all low miles.
You're F-Type guy, aren't you, Matt?
Sort of. I don't know if I want to put myself as a guy.
Okay, sorry. That was too much. That was too much.
No. It's. I have an F-Type, and
Right.
it's not really mine. It's my mom's. Me and my dad gave it to her.
I actually like it. Not an accusation. I actually think those pictures
like
you posted of that
F-types.
car is cool.
Do you know Ed Bolian, VinWiki? You know that
Sure.
guy? He just asked me to do one of his "What car would you buy for X dollars" videos, and I just recorded it. And there was a $35,000 one in there, and we were looking on Auto Tempest, and 35 grand buys you a 2017 F-Type V6 manual coupe with 34,000 miles on it.
Wow.
Manual. That's fucking hot. In red, sport pack. That's $35,000 well spent.
Yeah, it's a great looking car for the money for
Right.
everything.
Now
Performs pretty good.
for roughly the same money, 718 Cayman S, V6 F-Type, or V8 F-Type. Zach?
If it's just a daily, and maybe only for like a year or two, I would go F-Type V6. And he's in England, where
Yeah.
it's very expensive and gas is insane. I wouldn't get the V8. Like,
No, I wouldn't get the V8.
you won't use it most of the time. The 718 would be awesome if you want to go hit like the Welsh roads and the B roads. Like if you're doing that a lot, then you go that 718. But if you're just cruising, F-Type.
I would probably go 718 or followed by V6 F-Type. I wouldn't get the V8. The V8s for fun as press cars, but they're too much torque. The brakes are too grabby, and then the ones with the all-wheel drive to handle the torque are heavier and less fun. And the V8s are bouncy. They make them fucking bouncy.
It is stupidly loud. It is fun for a day,
Yeah.
and then you have the press car for a week, and you're like, I am that asshole, and I can't not be that asshole.
Burble tune.
Blah, 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 blah. And then Randy, one more question for you. What qualities make for a good Bring a Trailer auction writer?
Oh, writers. Well, we get asked about our style often, sometimes asked, sometimes complained, sometimes critiqued. And we, if you look on BAT, it's not flowery language. It's not salesy. So we require of our writers that it's a very sort of just the facts sort of style, which is super different than most of the car sales and auction universe. And it's kind of done really intentionally. A lot of times a seller will be, man, hype my car more. Like, tell them it's the greatest. Tell them it's amazing. And we're like, you can do that in the comments, but from BAT, the way the description is it's stuff that can be proven. And you can't prove that this is the best one remaining, given that there are thousands of them. So we're going to say it's describe it as how it is. So for people that we have come and write for us, we obviously, do a lot of training around language and what you can say and what you can't. Don't make bogus claims. Don't say a car is 70 years old and has no rust. You see that claimed all over the place. And it's kind of like, I'm not a metallurgy expert, but I know that this metal's 70 years old. So let's be honest about what's happening here. So we're very cautious and thoughtful about how we describe things. And we love under describing and over delivering on the products that sell on BAT. So that goes into the training of our writers. And so that's what is sort of the main pillar in terms of how they describe things.
Makes sense. Very smart.
Before we get out of here, Randy, were there other questions that were not related to Randy? Was that pretty much
That
it?
was everything.
Okay, great. I wanted to know, I've hypothesized for the last couple of years that we will start to see cars from the 30s and 40s drastically lose value if they aren't some very special museum piece. I was surprised to hear Frank Meekum last week tell us that at their auctions, cars from the 50s were up, which surprised me. But what is your take on non-museum piece cars from like the 30s and 40s? Because I don't really know who's buying that stuff right now.
Yeah, absolutely. 30s and 40s. And I'd actually put 50s into this as well. I mean, he may be saying stuff is up. Like the really special versions, like if you're getting a 57 Chevy, which is a car they produce so many thousands of, two-door, Bel Air, hardtop. Okay, that car is like stable. I don't know if it's up, but it's maybe stable. But like there's so many that are out there that are like the Biscayne 4-door, 6-cylinder, right?
Yeah.
And it's those cars just have no action. I mean, I can't imagine that value on that would be up. So there's a lot of just sort of lesser desirable versions. This is true of the 30s and 40s cars that you're talking about too, right? Like if you think of a 30s car and how big that audience is, like which ones are going to be on fire? 32 Fords are going to be on fire, right? Like crazy Duesenbergs, like what you're talking about. And race cars maybe are going to be fired up, or a, you know, really special, Woody, or I don't know, something that's rare and interesting. But like the sedan or like the terrible, like a
just
weird.
Pull over
it's
this screen, Zach. Like he's got a whole screen up, which is
this is all things that are 1956 on your site, and there's
I love it. Search by year. I love searching by year.
I mean,
right?
and there's like two very special cars, and then a bunch of kind of average ones.
So the top left, right, like an old holiday coupe, right? Like when you wake up in the morning, are you dreaming of going and getting a 56 Olds holiday coupe? It's like I think it's a tougher market for that. That one's a two-door hardtop with white walls and good stuff. But for every one of those, there's one of these Studebaker Commander Parkview wagons over here on the right. And it's just, I think your hypothesis is more accurate than the sort of the market's going to be great for these years of cars. I think the special ones are going to be great. And these cars are also pretty darn expensive to restore. Yeah. Given all the chrome and the motor, and like the guys that know how to build these cars are not around in numbers that they were 10 and 20 years ago. So I think the special examples will bring the dough and will be cool. Trucks, totally independent conversation. Trucks are hot and people want trucks, and I think they are a totally independent discussion.
Do you think that's the pussification of our trucks? I want real trucks, real SUVs.
Yeah, I mean, trucks are just
Fuck
cool.
these crossovers.
Yeah. So, but anyway, 30s, 40s cars, it hasn't totally fallen off a cliff, but I think the audience for those is much smaller. And I think they expect like ones that are really milestone, unless they have some sort of nostalgia that their grandpa had a 4-door Holiday or something. And that's getting to be a pretty rare story. I think it's got to be the 2-door hardtop. It's got to be the 32 Ford instead of the 32 Chevy. Yeah. Right? It's got to be like the special stuff. Otherwise the majority of the sort of average cars, honestly, I don't even know where they're going to go. They're going to get a lot cheaper and they're just going to disappear. And it's going to be the more marquee sort of items that we see that are preserved and invested in and still restored to some degree.
Yeah. I wonder if any of that stuff is worth buying just to drive and fuck around with. Like at what point do I want to buy, what are you showing, Zach? Just an interior of BMW? At what point do I want to buy, a 52 Dodge just to drive it around? You should. You know what I mean?
You genuinely should, because driving that Morgan around reminded me of driving old cars around, and like anything old that's not trying to be a badass, people smile at. Anything that's not a muscle car or like a rat rod or something, and people like those too. But that's just, it's like a fun mechanical experience. Like everything's a little softer. You open the air vents and it's like this, all that stuff. Like it's really, really fun. Even if you just own it for like 6 months, you should.
We had Randy a couple weeks ago, the Morgan Plus 4 press car, like brand new. Cool. I mean, it's brand new 2019 model year car, but it feels like it's 70 years old, right? And this is the opposite of the dudes who approach you in Group B rally cars. Women are all over your dick when you drive this. I've never driven
I would not have guessed that in a Morgan.
I've never driven another vehicle. Never driven another vehicle in my entire life that got a reaction from women like this. Ever. It's crazy. The second best was the DeLorean. With the DeLorean, you're approachable. You have a sense of humor a little bit. Women like the DeLorean. They didn't like any of the depreciated 90s Skyline stuff at all. Yeah. They don't like rally cars. Girls don't like rally cars. They like things with curves.
British Roadsters, Jags and Morgans and Austin Healey's. Go drive an Austin Healey.
That's a friendly car for like, you want to look like Ryan Philippe in Cruel Intentions, right? With the Jag 120. That's peak where you really need to be there. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Randy, thank you for joining us. What a great show. It's always a pleasure.
Cool. Likewise. Come back anytime. We'd love to have you up here at the office next time you're in SF, or let me get a tour of your place once you throw the doors open.
I know. We are weeks away. Literally, I think 2 weeks from being finished with construction. So 5 years down the road. West Side Collector Car Storage if you're interested in that. And of course, if you're listening to this show and you don't know, I don't need to plug Bring a Trailer for you. If you listen to this show, you probably have the email. But if not, subscribe to the Bring a Trailer email. It's a great start your morning with that instead of Twitter. Because you'll be angry if you start with Twitter. But if you start with Bring a Trailer, you'll just be sad that you don't have more money.
Well, you go to work. You work harder.
You just work. Yeah,
You're like, I'm going to get up and get after it.
Exactly. Randy, tell everybody up there that we said hello, and we love your work.
Thanks, guys. Really fun to be with you, and let's do it again.
Of course. Absolutely. That's our show for today. The Smoking Tire Podcast is powered by Shout Engine. Get your own damn podcast at shoutengine.com. It's easy. All you need is a microphone, a connection to the internet, and ideally, something to say. Peace.